Calling to order this special working session, Bath County Board of Education, July 29th, 6 p.m. Item 2, discussion of tonight's agenda. Item 3, discussion of consent items.
There are items A through Q. Some of those items are recurring each month. I will overlook those, but point out 5E grants. We're asking for approval to enter into a grant application through the Wilderness Education Project. And this will be a multi-million-dollar grant over 3 to 5 years. And so it's designed to provide evidence-based strategies in school-wide PBIS and MTSS. That's positive behaviors and support and multi-tiered systems of support. We haven't received the grant, but it has already been applied for us, and the people that put the grant in are just asking us, they'd like us to be a part of it. So that's what you'd be approving there. We left use of facilities on the agenda in case there's a last minute. There are none on there, 5F. And then on 5G, you'll see that, just pay attention that there's 3 out-of-state or overnight travels. I'll skip to 5J. That's the annual financial report unaudited. This is required annually by KDE and due by July 25th, and it shows the revenue and expenditures for last fiscal year. 5K, transportation costs per mile rate for FY25. The transportation cost per mile is $2.73 for school year 24-25, and that's for all entities, internal and external, who use our buses for transport. 5L, certified evaluation plan. That's the annual approval of the district evaluation plan. There are no changes from the previous year. 5M, accept bids for a vehicle to be paid with grant money. We request to accept bids for a vehicle to be paid through the McKinney-Vento Homeless Grant. This vehicle will be used to transport homeless students to doctor visits, therapy, conduct home visits, drive students to and from school, and community engagements. 5N, District Code of Acceptable Behavior and Discipline Handbook. Request for possible action to approve the Code of Acceptable Behavior and Discipline for the 24-25 school year. 5O, job position description for math achievement coach. We ask that the board approve a math achievement position and job description. This position will be paid for via a 2-year grant at $62,000 per year. 5P, Gateway Community Services Disability Service Agreement for 24-25, another annual renewal with Gateway Community Service Organization to provide services for Head Start. The purpose of this agreement is for Bath County Board of Education to provide disability services deemed appropriate through the Evaluation and Admissions Release Committee. So we'll just be helping the Head Start by providing special education services. And the last, 5Q, Vocational Rehabilitation MOA, another annual renewal. This MOA is to allow the Office of Vocational Rehabilitation to assist students with disabilities transition from high school to employment.
Any questions on any of these? Item 4, discussion and update on all construction projects.
We welcome Mr. Ruiz and Mr. Rhodes.
Good evening. I'll give you a report on the high school, sort of give you some things we have done and what's going to be taking place. You know, phase 8 is the cafeteria, and that's coming together. We feel pretty good about that. I think we're down to the ceiling tiles, replacing those and getting our above ceiling inspection completed. We've got a geothermal. We got the building now being cooled by your new geothermal system. That's online. We got rid of the boiler and the cooling tower. That's been removed, and installing some hollow metal doors and frames, hardware, aluminum storefront doors. So we're getting prepared to start the next phase. The windows should all be completed this week, and so things are We're going well. I did have a little report as far as from our site superintendent, and I spoke with Ms. Brandenburg, but Phase 5 will be starting about the time school starts back. And in the room 105 classroom has been an extensive amount of work take place there. And we do not think we can get that open, and I know she would really like to have that room, so we're going to, I'm not sure if we can, but we're going to see what we can do to get that room available for her. And then another room, 217's had a lot of work about some rooftop units, so there's been some steel work, structural steel components, and we're not sure we can get that room open. They will be shortly after school starts, but we're trying to push to get those 2 rooms available. The restrooms, we think they're going to be ready to go, and I think they'll all be open. So we've had a good summer getting all that work done. Well, actually, that was on the layback. The restrooms, it's hard to distinguish one from the other. We pretty much call the high school, and then the other one the Chenault building. But and then anyway, on the laybacks, probably the big issue is the canopy. There's been some delays due to they were fabricating, and we had to hold up because we had some issues with the grade, some elevations that we just wanted to be sure that what was proposed was going to work. And we also had some issues with the storm drainage, some drainage elevations. The grades, be sure everything was going to work, so we had to stop. So now we're going again. They're to be here Friday, so they're about 2 weeks behind. So that's going to be a push. That's going to be a challenge. Get all that work completed, because after that we got concrete work, we got some asphalt work, and all that needs to be done before school opens. So that's the challenge on the Chenault building. I mean, it's pretty much a shop area. I think it's ready to be moved in. I think all that work's being completed. And so I certainly entertain any questions that you might have this time.
What kind of work are you doing on room 105 and 217?
It's just, well, let me see if Anthony could, it has an extensive amount of work take place to do with the new geothermal system coming into the school. So you got this the geothermal lines coming into the building. It's got to have I guess have a wall built around it. I guess the pipe's coming in, but I don't know if you want to add to that, Jonathan.
I'm pretty sure 105 is the room that actually has the underground lines coming into the building. And then, like David said, it's going to have a chase blocking it off in the corner of that classroom. It then goes up above ceiling. It has a brand new ceiling soffit to conceal that line as it runs from the well-field side of the building across the mechanical room. So most of that work is just making sure that the slab is ready and that they can run the lines up above ceiling across the building. For 217, it's not the actual geothermal, but it's the rooftop units coming vertically down through, I think, a closet. That room, I think, is a closet, if I'm not mistaken. It's definitely about the rooftop units coming vertically down through the building and distributing horizontally through the rest of what we're going to call the first main part of the building classrooms.
Okay. Thank you.
Are you all prepared to, there were some things, I'm a little loud. There were some things that I didn't get on, that are on the agenda, but I didn't write a rationale for because I didn't have the information. Are you prepared to talk about those?
Yeah, which one should we start with first?
Well, I'll just go right down what we have here. BG 22-376. That was number 9 on the agenda.
Good question. Let me make sure it's the right.
It says HVAC. ECHS, HVAC, BG.
Okay. So that one, if it's 22-376, that's the high school. So there's a proposed change order credit for no longer doing some slab removal and replacement of the cooling tower area of the high school. Is that the line item we're looking at, or is that different?
Okay, on there, we had 9A, and then we had the cooling tower, so 9A should be 9, is that what we're saying?
Correct, yes.
Okay, Mr. Thompson had asked that that slab not be demolished for the board, and the construction, then that we would save $2,800. We get a credit for $2,800.
Correct,
And he's going to use that slab to create a small storage building.
correct.
Okay, sorry about that one.
And that's the only action item for the high school, is that pricing to no longer do that work for y'all's consideration. We reviewed the cost, it's fair from what the general intent was supposed to be, but it's at the mercy if you all want to take a credit or not.
And then number 10, layback Phase 2, BG 22-520.
That one is more about another installment for the special inspector testing, and that's an amount of $1,858.50.
Okay, we have that on there as 10A, so, okay, that was the miscommunication, so
Yes.
So
And that's
really,
some-
there is no A, it's just,
it should be 9 and 10.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. And then on that, just so the board knows, we'd already approved these inspections. This is just the payout.
Correct.
Thank you, sir. I believe that's it on I had the questions I had for the construction.
If there's any questions about that credit for the high school or special inspections, I can answer them. If not, let me know when we want to talk about the stormwater.
Yes, we had a discussion on there. It was for the stormwater, layback, and high school. So we covered the first two. Is that what we're saying we need?
that's item 8.
It's for the
Thank you.
phase 2 of the pond, and mainly I wanted the board to know that when it came to the first phase, you saw the progress, it's fenced up. Clearly, I think we have to see like how it holds up for a heavy rain, right? But knowing that the Laybeck project was the project that we added it to, technically that project is going to end in this fall. So if there's ever an interest to do the next step, there's basically a rolling clock to start issuing contracts for that work to start. It doesn't have to start immediately. It could be phased for something that starts late spring next year and ultimately throughout the summer. But if not, perfectly fine. It's just that then you would have to be incorporating into the high school project, which gets a little complicated on our end, but we can still totally do that. It just will likely cost more money because the high school project has to charge a higher rate for labor because of the funding sources that are used at the high school. So ultimately, Layvick is about to close down this fall. If we don't proceed with phase 2, not a big deal, but if you do think that phase 2 long-term would be the goal, there's some time to still figure out when you want to do that, and clearly I know funding's a big part of that, but I didn't want you all to come across the goal for doing it, say, December after we've closed out Laybeck, and now you're held to doing it in a more expensive project and maybe more complicated timeline for that high school schedule. So, big picture, is there any direction for us to proceed with pricing phase 2, or do we feel like phase 1 is good for now? And by phase 1, I mean the current enlarging of that pond area.
I would really like to see what phase 1 is going to do for us before we talk about proceeding. But now, that's just me. Some of the others may have a different idea, but I would really like to see what money we've spent is going to get us right now.
Okay.
And what Mr. Reeves is referring to is, I may get them backwards, but I've got it right. Anything we used ESSER funds for had to go through Davis-Bacon. Is that, I said it correctly?
Yes.
Wages, so we have to pay a higher federal pay per hour for the workers. If we go through the Laybeck process, we can pay the regular wages. So for the
Correct.
same work, we'll be paying a lot of extra money. So that's why if you want to do that, if we change our mind or you want to go forward, we need to do it before we close out Laybeck so we can get the same work at a cheaper price.
Correct. As if you want to do anything with phase 2. If it works out fine and that there's no issue, then great. I just didn't want y'all to be surprised later that you're stuck with having to do a more expensive route, a more complicated route, but
So, I'm just gonna add it. The design team probably needs, what, about 30 days to complete the plan?
it's ready. It's in the price.
So, okay, so everything's changed. So I would think you'd have at least a couple of months, I would think, to make that decision, in my opinion.
That's true. We can,
So I would think, September meeting, you could make a final decision. I would
Okay.
think.
yeah.
And if you call the fire department, come out for the Honda.
See what it's gonna do.
So that's all I had. It was just making sure that you all knew. And then if you want to talk about middle school, I can wait. Or if you want to talk about middle school now, I can go straight into that.
Did anyone see what the pond did yesterday during the rain?
No, Mr. White, he discussed, you must have had a rain here, what, a few weeks ago, a couple weeks ago, maybe, pretty heavy rain. Anthony-
We had about 2 inches here yesterday.
Oh, did you? Anthony said the one you had a few weeks now, he didn't comment on the one yesterday. Well, I don't guess he was here, but he said the one you had a couple weeks ago, everything worked fine. Well, whenever it was, I remember him talking about you had a pretty good shower after that pond was completed.
I know Mr. Lucas was satisfied with his after that really, really hard rain, because I asked him how that worked beside his house, and he said it worked great. So he
Okay.
was satisfied with that.
Great, great. Yeah, if we could, maybe we can talk about the middle school while we're here, just talk about that BG.
You can talk about the renderings with Corella.
Yes, that's fine.
Or, hold on, they're talking about
Don't want to jump the gun, but I have mostly an intent to talk about potential render, but if you want to talk BG1s, we can do that too. I don't know where you want to start.
Start with the rendering.
Okay. So I know that the goal for the renderings that you got, I think, what was it, back in January or February, there was maybe an intent to make it look more traditional, more, let's say, like 1930s kind of like historic look. And we could totally do that. I just wanted to make sure that y'all knew that, we didn't want to just hand you a design that didn't look too different to what's there. So that's why you had the rendering that you got. But if you all would like to still have one that is more similar to what you have without it looking identical, I guess I kind of just need to know how far is too far, and ultimately, like, what would your timeline be for another rendering?
Well, as far as the rendering goes, I would like to see one as soon as we can get it.
Okay.
As to how it's going to look, I was hoping for the more historic look as what it looks like on the outside now, pretty close, with the columns, the bell tower on top, the rows of windows. I really think it needs to look quite similar to what we have.
Okay. Okay. And I hear all that. I just want to make sure you know that when it comes to the render versus the design, when we start designing, that will tell like the inside of the building and how the front configuration of spaces wants to be. That will eventually inform how the new elevation will look. So anything we develop might change. It might look the same way that you're hoping to have, but it all depends on if you want the gym at the front of the building versus a series of classrooms. Secondly, how far should we consider keeping the overall face of the front of the building? Because right now the only thing that kind of like stands out is like the columns themselves, while everything else kind of is flat against the same brick area. Is that the general goal?
What I saw in the previous rendering, the ends of the building were rounded and looked quite similar to the building that's there now. But, of course, the columns was not there. And I really think those need to be there,
Okay.
as well as, like I said, the bell tower.
So it's mainly the main entry is the main goal to make look pretty similar. but
Quite
new.
quite similar.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, that's the comments that I got from a lot of community members that,
He's tried, I'll speak for Mr. Reed, he's politely tried to ask you, do you want it to look exactly the same as the old building or a little bit different?
Right, and mainly because I know that there will be conversations about gap funding, and I don't want it to be where the board gets some reaction saying like you spent new school money for it to look the exact same. And again, we can make it look slightly different. I just want to know like how far different ultimately. If it's mainly like the details of the columns and the roof line, then I could totally do that and still make it look a little different so that, you know, whoever sees it, the legislature or a principal might be like, okay, it's pretty much the same, just a little bit elevated, perfectly fine. Just want to make sure we're not giving you something that looks like an easy Photoshop job that,
no, I think you got a little leeway.
okay.
Could I make a comment?
Yes, absolutely.
I haven't talked to the other board members, but I think, seeing what goes on at the middle school, that really a new, larger gym would accommodate their needs better, and possibly the space where the gym is now could be an auditorium for them.
Okay.
Because I know they're constantly scheduling here and having to move students and bus students.
Okay.
And I don't know if there's room for a gym behind the building or beside the building. I don't know how much space that would take, but I know there's a big need for an updated gym.
To that point, the general perspective that you saw of the render last time, are you still interested in seeing a front, like, street view of, like, mostly perceived classrooms and almost like, I guess, the front office on the front? Or would you like to see a little bit of a gym on the side and, like, a front entry? Like, how much should I show beyond just a front entry of a building?
Well, the comments I have is that people in the community want the building to match
Okay,
the historic appearance of the town.
okay.
But, you know, I also know that there's going to have to be some changes if we add, you know, more square footage.
Right.
Probably, right now, all we need is like the rendering of the front of the building like you did before.
Okay. Okay.
And not a full scope because, we don't have the money to do that.
Right. So yeah, we won't commit to designing the whole thing, but what I can do then is either I can send Mr. Evans like a few draft versions of what we think might work before we commit to fully rendering it. Just prepare yourself. It will not look anywhere near as nice as new as what you saw. It will look pretty bare bones, like solid colors, almost like a color blocking view. And then once we feel like there's a general intent that makes sense, we'll then commit to actually rendering that. Would we want to do that under the same agreement as the last proposal, where we're adding just like one rendering, or how would we want to, I guess, work through that?
On the last rendering, we did two, and it was approximately around 7,000, about 3,500 apiece.
Correct, yes.
So that number would stay relatively close.
Yes.
And so the board really needs to decide if they want to do it, one. Two, they want, each additional rendering would be roughly $3,500 more dollars.
Correct, yes. And if you want, you can have two exterior renderings, one that shows something that's super close to what's there, and then maybe another just hybrid of an exterior view of something totally different. Or you could just worry about one brand new historic looking exterior. So it's up to you on the quantity. It's up to you on if it's interior and exterior. What I'm hearing for sure is one exterior, but you tell me if you want to have 2, 3, or just one.
That's, I don't want to speak for you, Ms. Razor, but the board doesn't usually take action in the working, so that.
Correct, sorry,
It'll be a
correct.
vote in the working, the regular session.
I understood, yes. And so I'll wait for that direction. Unless you have any more questions for me about the rendering, I might turn it over to David to talk about just general middle school BG1 updates. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, just to be sure we understand, there'll be several drafts or whatever, black and white, whatever, and then they can decide which one they would like. Right, for the, yes, and then they can decide if they want one or two or whatever. Okay. As far as the, are you talking about the cost? All right. Now, the school, we're just trying to come up with a square footage and, you know, a cost per square foot. I don't know if y'all have that in front of you. Jonathan, you have that?
We removed the BG1 from this month's agenda.
Okay, so you got it off the agenda, well, that's fine.
And we're going to bring it to the next one,
Okay,
closer to the time to
okay, so.
make a
we
little
don't-
more impact.
All right, so.
But if the board wishes to hear about it,
No,
that's,
we don't need to have that conversation. That's fine.
sorry.
No, we need to have that, you know, we need to have that BG one and all that anyway to go over, so, no, we're good. Primarily, I just want to see if there's anything we need to discuss that may not, we can eliminate for being here for the board meeting, but we'll be right here if we need to. Right, I will.
Does anyone have any other questions for Mr. Rhodes, Mr. Ruiz? I think you guys are good.
I'll stick around for whenever you have any questions during the meeting.
Okay. Item 5, discussion of annual KSBA policy updates and first reading of revised policy 03.125, expense reimbursement.
On the regular agenda, item 12 is the second reading of KSBA policies and procedures updates. This is the second reading. It is aligned with the new legislation that was passed in the last General Assembly. Inside this second reading, when we approve it, it also includes the prohibiting medical cannabis on school grounds policy. And so I'd ask that the board approve the second reading and allow those to go into practice. And then I spoke with Ms. Combs earlier last week, and based on the auditor's recommendation, currently, when this board goes to KSBA or any of our people go to conferences or overnights, they have to keep the receipts, and sometimes, you know, you leave a restaurant and they forgot to give you the receipt, and it caused some auditing issues. And so the auditor stated that the easiest way to do that is to create a recommendation for an expense reimbursement policy that gives a daily per diem amount, and that amount is based on the federal standard mill rate. So we're asking that in the first reading that we approve this policy that allows $59 per day. And so inside the policy, it's broken down, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but simply stated, if I go to eat, if I spend more than $59, I pick up the difference. That included in 59 is the tax, gratuity, all that. And if I'm under $59, then I get 59 or under, I get reimbursed for that amount. And so simply no receipts are required, keeps us from getting a negative strike on our audit. And it's a much better policy in that sense. You don't have to keep up with it. All you have to do is come back and turn in, request your reimbursement. It's for any expense, travel expense reimbursement for food. We still have lodging separate, but it's simply for food. So $59 a day, that's the federal mill rate. Currently, it'd be teachers, it'd be anyone in the district, this board. If you go to KSBA, you won't have to, if you go out to eat, you won't have to keep your receipt. You just come back, know that you have a limit of $59. So if you go $60, you owe us $1. And so it just makes it much, much simpler. And I just ask that you consider that and approve the first reading. And if you want more details, Ms. Combs will speak to it.
Item 6, discussion of an additional SLD teacher position at OES.
That's item 11 on the regular session. The Kentucky Administrative Regulations require elementary SLD teachers to be limited at 15 students on their caseload. Unfortunately, we're currently over the limit and are requesting an additional SLD elementary position to meet the state regs. So that's one of those requirements. SLD teachers, they're special ed teachers. They can only have 15 on their caseload, and we have more students than that and so we need to add additional teacher. If you have any questions about that, Ms. Witt could give you more specifics. But we're just asking the approval of an SLD teacher for E OES.
How many are we over?
The estimate is we'll be over 8 starting, and so we'll be halfway to another teacher at the start, and that's without more children coming in.
So we'll be over 8.
And, in September, we'll reevaluate it, and we need to hire additional staff in September when we will, and then after that, we will ask for waivers for but in good faith, we will try to save it.
Any other questions on this?
Thank you, Ms. Witt.
We're adjourned. Have you some tamales? Call to order this Board of Education regular meeting, July 29th, 2024, 7 p.m. Discussion and possible action on tonight's agenda. Pledge of Allegiance and silent devotion. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please just take a moment of silent devotion. Item 4, Superintendent and Board Communications.
Thank you. Tonight's board communication will be very quick, but I just want to take a moment and let the general public know that our high school renovation will continue for the entirety of 24-25 school year. Just like last year, we'll have to be flexible as the construction progresses. When parents come for open house, they will see many parts of the building coming out of the demolition phase. This may be concerning, but please note that opening day, those areas will not resemble what you saw weeks before the start of school. The construction is going as planned, and opening days for students will have a school still under construction, but safe and ready for all our students. Thank you.
Any personnel actions or fundraisers need to be discussed in that?
No, ma'am. Personnel and fundraisers are just for board's information, as they've already been approved, and personnel has no action taken.
Okay, thank you. Item 5, discussion and possible action on approving the following items. A, June 24th, 24 minutes. B, June financial statement. C, claims. D, superintendent expenditures. E, grants. F, use of facility. G, travel. H, review of all monthly financial reports of all funds. I, pay bills through January 31st, 2024. J, annual financial report unaudited for fiscal year 2024. K, transportation costs per mile for the rate for fiscal year 2025. L, certified evacuation plan. M, accept bids for a vehicle paid with grant money. N, district code of acceptable behavior and discipline handbook. O, job description / job position for math achievement coach. P, Gateway Community Service Organization Incorporated Disability Service Agreement for the 24-25 school year. Q, Office of Vocational Rehabilitation Memorandum of Agreement.
Chair, can I make a motion to, if we go back to number 2, and to approve tonight's agenda?
I'm sorry.
I'll second.
Any discussion on the agenda, tonight's agenda? All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Motion carries.
And I'll make a motion to approve items A through Q.
I have a motion by Eric.
I'll second.
Any discussion on items 5A through 5Q?
5I, did you say pay bills through July 31st, 2024?
That's what it says, yes.
Okay.
So I have a motion by Eric, second by Carla. All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 6 is public comments. I don't think we have any. Item 7, discussion and possible action to approve an updated rendering for the Bath County Middle School. I'll make that motion to approve an updated rendering for the middle school.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I would like to only do one rendering, since it's so expensive, of what, we were asking them to show us, the front view only of it. I don't know what everybody else thinks about it.
So, Karen, do I need to revise my motion for only one rendering?
I mean, what does everyone else think?
I think that's plenty.
I'm okay with that.
So I'd like to revise my motion to approve one updated rendering for the Bath County Middle School.
And I'll still second.
All in favor signify by saying yes. Yes. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 8, update of the Bath County High School HVAC, LAVAC projects in the intent and time frame for the Storm Water Pond Phase 2 project.
This item was put on the regular session. It was for informational, no action taken. And so the board may choose, since Mr. Ruiz and Mr. Rhodes spoke in the working session, to pass on this, or Mr. Ruiz can come down again and answer any questions you may have.
My discussion on this was to wait a couple of months and see how the Phase 1 project was handling the water before we moved on to the Phase 2. Any other comments? Item 9, discussion and possible action on Bath County High School HVAC renovation, Bath County High School HVAC renovation BG number 22-376.
And this is one of the ones, there was a slight miscommunication on our part, and I apologize for that. That is, you will be approving what is listed under 9A, the cooling tower credit for $2,800.
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
So I have a motion by Eric, a second by Carla. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes. Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 10, discussion and possible action on the Bath County LAVAC Phase 2 BG 22-520.
And this one is similar to 9A. 10A should be 10. So you're making a motion on 10A, special inspections for Ellie Gregg.
I'll make that motion.
So I have a motion by Brenda, second by Eric. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes. Yes. Opposed? Motion carries. Discussion and possible action to create an additional SLD teacher position at Owensville Elementary School.
I'll make that motion.
Oh,
I have a motion by Eric, a second by Carla. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 12, discussion and possible action on the second reading and review of the 24-25 KSBA Annual Policy Procedure Reviews. I have a motion by Carla, a second by Eric. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes. Yes. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 13, discussion and possible action to approve the first reading of revised policy 03.125, expense reimbursement.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Eric, a second by Brenda. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 14, other business.
Madam Chair, I'd like to bring up what I discussed with you earlier.
Okay, go
And I
ahead.
don't know if it takes a motion or what it takes, but in the event, and it's almost a definite possibility, that the gym will not be available for graduation, and the football field is the second choice, but again, you're counting on the weather, and that may or may not cooperate. I think the third choice would be the auditorium, and its limited size will constrict the normally large crowd that fills the gym, so I think it would be in the best interest of what we could do to make sure our cafeteria televisions were equipped for an overflow crowd, to where we could have, you know, at least people could see and hear what was going on, even if they weren't in the room. And again, I don't know if that takes a motion. If so, I'll make that motion. I know while construction's going on and KEDC's here already to run drops and all that, it shouldn't be prohibitively expensive to do.
So we already have TVs in the cafeteria.
Well, I think they took them down. They're old. I don't know if they're, you know, if they can be put back up or if we need new. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure if, I'm sure if they took them down, they're supposed to go back up. Mrs. Brandenburg shaking her head, yes, Mr. Griffin. So they'll go back up or be replaced with new ones? New ones, yes. Thank you.
So there wouldn't be very much cost associated after the new TVs go up. They could actually do that without any trouble.
Well, I think it would probably take network drops and probably some decoder boxes. And it would be similar to what they do when they stream our board meetings. It would just be, you know, a remote access for what is going on in here.
Do we need to get costs on that, or do we need a motion on that?
I would think we'd need cost, and so the board would have to approve it. I have no idea. I think this one they put together. I think they went and found part stuff for,
I think that one came out of the trash.
so they,
Actually,
but they did that for $1,000+
Probably.
somewhere around there. So new ones, got a bird. New ones, I'm just guessing probably 1,500, 2,000, maybe.
you know, drops used to be about 300, 350. Decoder boxes are maybe, I don't know, that little box in there, maybe 1,000 or so.
We could make a motion, like up to $5,000 for
Well.
it to be done. You want to do that?
Yeah, I'll amend the motion to say, with a cost of up to $5,000. And then if it's more, I guess we'll have to revisit it.
Did you get that, Karen? I'll second that. So I have a motion by Brenda, a second by Barbara. Any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes. Yes. Opposed? Motion carries. Motion to go in executive session pursuant to KRS 156.557, preliminary discussion of superintendent evaluation.
Second.
And it is 7:15. All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 16, motion to come out of executive session, no action taken.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes. Yes. We're adjourned at 8:06 PM.
Motion.
Motion to adjourn. 8:07 PM.